Good afternoon, YouTubers. This is Joseph Magi, author of Playing Card Divination and Fortune Telling, the Magi Method. You can find the book worldwide on Amazon in both Kindle and paperback versions. You can find the full color card deck used here on Etsy/Magi Method. You can join us on Facebook. Today we want to discuss Africa. Okay, on January 18th, South Africa approves land expropriation without compensation. They literally changed the constitution to target specific groups and approve the theft of land. They can steal land, the government can steal land and redistribute it. And they put this in the constitution now. Okay, so Zimbabwe did this a couple of years back, and their economy collapsed. They were the breadbasket of Africa. They produced more food, I think, than any country in Africa, and they went into hyperinflation, and then the people starved. They've never recovered. Okay, so this already happened in Zimbabwe. I personally have a friend who was born and raised in Kenya. Her father was an accountant, a middle-class accountant, very modest salary. They started driving out what's called the whites. She's an Indian girl, darker than any African American I've ever met, but anyone who is not black African is considered white. And her family had to flee. And she was born there, she was raised there. The father and mother now live in India, because they can't afford to live anywhere else. India is the only place that's cheap enough, because the salaries are different places. So I want to know, does this bode disaster for the South African economy? Okay, and there's a lot of good reasons why it would. And we can go over some of them. Okay, will the South African economy now collapse because of this land expropriation? Big change. Scapegoat, wow. Yep, that's accurate. This is why I clean my cards. That's accurate. Okay, what are some reasons that the South African economy could collapse? Well, because if you're a business, any foreign business, you go into South Africa, you spend $50 million to build something, and then the government comes along and steals it. So what's going to happen is that all of the what typically happens in a situation like this, and this is happening right now in Venezuela. Okay, Venezuela is the most oil-rich country in the world, and the people are starving. Why? Because the government seized all the businesses. They're socialists. So what typically happens in a situation like this is that all foreign businesses, all foreign capital leaves. They're like, oh crap, the government's going to steal everything. So they just leave. They take all their money, all those jobs disappear, the people starve, the economy collapses, and everything goes into hyperinflation. So I asked, will the South African economy collapse as a result of this land expropriation? So we have karmic shift, scapegoat, snake, and high tower. So it's all about the businesses. Okay, and this is, by the way, what South Africa is doing is the opposite of the United States model. And the United States, whatever you think of them, we are the richest country on earth. Okay, so if you follow our policies, you will probably be prosperous. Okay, and if you do the opposite, you will probably not be prosperous. They are doing the opposite of what the United States and Europe, the wealthiest countries in the world, do. Okay, so this land expropriation is going to create a big change. Businesses are going to flee, and it's going to create a lot of problems. Snake, a lot of problems. 20. Oh, and a big roadblock. So yeah, doom is coming. Doom is coming. Another thing I'd like to point out is that this is actually a war on Christians. There's a lot of rhetoric that the the government and the people of South Africa are running around saying, and they couch things in, this is actually a genocide, but they talk about equity and blah, 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 but this is actually a war on Christians. Christians are the most persecuted people group on planet Earth. Okay, Christians are from every nation and nationality. Okay, here, you know, they're supposedly one kind of people. They're Dutch settlers, Boers, who came 300 years ago. Okay, and these are the people that they're persecuting. But really, this is a persecution of Christians, and Christians are the most persecuted people on earth. What is actually happening, just as they persecuted the Jews, soon they are now persecuting the Christians. Okay, and so the next Holocaust is going to be, and this is a prediction, you can write this down if you want. The next Holocaust is going to be Jews and Christians are going to be slaughtered for their beliefs. Okay, and Jesus, this one's free. I'm giving you this one for free. Jesus came as a lamb. Okay, good works, building hospitals, feeding the starving, clothing the naked. Okay, Jesus came as a lamb to be slain, but he's returning as a lion. Okay, and when he returns as a lion, he's coming with a sword, and he comes to conquer, and they're going to stack the bodies in the streets. And that's literally what it says. And I can read it to you. Psalm 110. And Revelation, I think, 17. Anyway, I can look it up. It's Revelation 19. So the time of the Lamb, okay, where Christians are the Lamb, that time is over. It's the time of the lion. Okay, it's the time of the lion. It's the job of Christians to spread the gospel around the earth, and they've done it as the lamb. Now the nations hate the Christians. They hate them everywhere. And they're slaughtering them, and they're murdering them, and they're discriminating openly against them. And here's a case, another case, where they changed the Constitution, okay, to discriminate specifically against Christians. It is time for the Christians to be the lion, okay? To conquer, to slaughter, to take over, to drive out. And that is the time that we're entering now in society. The time of the lamb is over. It is now the time of the lion. And those of you who are Christians, wake up. Okay, will there be hyperinflation? So it's going to be very bad. Will there be hyperinflation? Okay, because that's what happened in Zimbabwe. Hyperinflation happened. Oh, interesting. Because they're also talking a lot of rhetoric about how they're not going to end up like Zimbabwe. Even they're doing exactly the same thing a few years later. Okay, so player, hamster wheel, cornerstone, and man. So it's a long road. This is going to take a long time, and the economy is actually pretty strong, and player is money. 11, 10, 21, 25, 25. It's the economy is going to stay strong for quite a while. Okay, so 2 is hyperinflation. 1, economy collapse. 2, hyperinflation. Okay, so they're having lots and lots of problems right now in South Africa. There's a drought. The electricity's going out. All the public, lights and water and sewer is failing now. Suddenly, why? Mismanagement, corruption. Are the people of South Africa going to starve in the next 10 years? Because that's what happened in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe was the breadbasket of Africa. They produced more food than any other country. And after they did this, the land expropriation, everything was decimated. And the people starved. Hyperinflation, and the people starved. So will the people starve as a result of this? There's the devil. Okay, so will the people starve? We got four-leaf clover, fox, and ruler. Okay, let's add this up. 13 and 12, 25, plus 4, 29. 28 is 7 spades. 29 is 8 hearts. 8 hearts is water into wine. And then you have the devil on the bottom. The devil comes to kill and destroy. The devil can be famine. Fox. I think what this is telling me is that it's a long road to get there. And it's going to take a long time to dismantle and destroy all the great things about South Africa. Because South Africa is the wealthiest country in Africa, far and away. Just like the United States is the wealthiest country in the world, South Africa is the wealthiest country in Africa by far. Okay, so it's going to take a long time to knock them off of this pedestal. So it's coming. The devil says it's coming. But the government is going to do a lot of things to delay this, and they're going to take a lot of actions, and it's just going to take a while. They're not going to starve right away. Interesting. And since I believe all of this is spiritual, because that's how the Bible characterizes the world events and actions of people, I want to ask, is this the judgment of God? Okay, for not following God in South Africa? Is this the judgment of God upon the people of South Africa? And I think that's a worthwhile question. And I'm not judging. I don't judge. God judges. But is this the judgment of God, spiritually speaking? Because this is a spiritual channel, and we look at spiritual things. Is this the judgment of God on South Africa? These terrible things that are coming on South Africa. We got the yes card. We got the yes card. Is this the judgment of God? Jacob's ladder, olive tree, yes, and Star of Bethlehem. Jacob's ladder goes all the way into heaven, olive tree. It is a progressive judgment on the people of God. Yes, it is a step-by-step progressive judgment on the people of God. And this is the direction that it's going. Let's add this up. 11 and 9, 25 spades. 5 spades. So these obstacles, so progressively, the people of God, they can turn around. They're going to have many, 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 many opportunities to turn around, stop it, go back, do something else, change it. And so it's very progressive. It's step by step. One bad thing after another bad thing after another bad thing and until finally you're eating your own children in the streets. And that sounds really terrible, but read the Bible, okay? The Bible is not for sissies. Okay, you want to read some crazy stuff? Read the Bible. Okay, so let's recap here. On January 13, 2018, Cyril Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, approved the theft of land with land expropriation without compensation for targeted groups of people only. Okay, so is the economy of South Africa going to collapse? Well, 8 spades is a big sickness card. And snake, this is going to create a whole lot of problems in the economy and a big change. And especially, it's all about business. This is the shadow card. It's all about business. Okay, this makes a terrible environment for all business and a constant blockage. This adds 20 blockage. So this is really bad. This is a terrible idea, and we've seen it before. Okay, number 2, will this create hyperinflation? Okay, because when an economy is really sick, the currency goes into free fall. Why? Because it's not based on anything. Okay, that's another thing. The one thing we're not supposed to do is base our money on interest, on usury, on interest. This is the one thing that the Bible forbids. Don't base your monetary system on usury or interest. What is the world monetary system based on? It's based on interest. It's based on usury, which creates huge problems. Okay, so is the rand going to go into hyperinflation? Well, it's a big economy. It's very solid. It's the strongest economy in Africa by far. So it's going to take a long time for this to happen. And they're going to do everything they can to prevent this. But over a long period, it's not going to just collapse like Zimbabwe. It's going to take a while. Okay, but it's a bad situation. Number 3, will the people starve? Okay, because in Zimbabwe, where they just did this, they went from the most productive land in Africa, feeding all of Africa, to everybody was starving. And it turned into a dust bowl, like the Dust Bowl of the United States. Okay, so will the people starve? Well, the devil's coming. The devil's coming and the fox. Okay, so the government, the ruler, is going to do everything it can to prevent this. But the devil's in the house now. Okay, so it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse over a long period of time. This is the beginning of the end. The economy is going to collapse, but it's going to take a long time, and then the people are going to starve later. It's just going to take a while. It's just going to take a while. Okay, and that's what happened in Venezuela. We're seeing this in Venezuela right now. When the government takes over things from private people, everybody starves, okay? And that's happening in Venezuela right now. Venezuela is the richest in terms of oil in the world, and the people are starving and rioting in the streets. And they're shooting everybody in the streets because they can't control it. Why? Because the government took over. They did exactly the same thing. They seized businesses, they just stole the businesses, and they made them government entities. Really, really a bad idea. So for those of you who are voting for that very young, very immature, very ill-informed girl up in Brooklyn, New York, and I forget her name. She's Puerto Rican. I used to date a Puerto Rican girl. But that's what's going to happen. Okay, if you do that kind of thing, everybody's going to starve. There's going to be riots. We're all going to have to kill each other. Okay, so finally, I asked, is this the judgment of God on the people of God? Because it's the responsibility of the people of God. Because I want to be clear about this. I'm approaching this from a spiritual viewpoint. This is a war on Christians. This is a war on Christ. They are going after the Christians. That's what they're doing. Okay, and the Christians are not doing their job. Okay, so progressively on the people of God, the olive tree is the people of God. Progressive judgment. Yes, this is a progressive judgment on the people of God, and this is the direction that's happening. And as I predicted, I believe that the next Holocaust will undoubtedly be Jews and Christians being slaughtered for their faith. Okay, and that's what we're seeing. This is a war on Christians, okay? And they tell you a lot of lies. It's because of this, it's because of colonialism. No, this is a war on Christ. This is a war on Christians, and that's all it is. And it's getting bad. It's getting bad. And it's going to get worse unless it gets better. Boy, that's profound. That's how I see it. I'm Joseph Magi, author of Playing Card Divination, Fortune Telling, the Magi Method. You can find the book worldwide on Amazon and Kindle and paperback versions. You can find the full color card deck used here on Etsy /Magi Method. You can join us on Facebook.